Rebecca Rainbow, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Right, Rebecca, tell us about your job role.
So my job role is HSEQ Manager. We have a really great team here at TEXO. We manage everything from, our standard ISO certification compliance, helping with project support, just anything really. And we all kind of jump in and get stuck in. I think that's what I like about working in a smaller, more family-orientated business, is that there isn't hierarchy and structure. Everyone just kind of jumps in and gets on with it. And I would say the same for our team. We just kind of all just jump in and get on with it, but we enjoy what we do. We like getting involved with the projects. They're all very interesting. So our team just jumps in and gets involved with them, with the project teams from start to finish, in order to support and ensure that we're meeting client requirements as well as our legislative requirements.
How big's the team? Because if we take one little step back, when you first started, how long have you been with TEXO now?
I've been with TEXO now coming up for 4 years.
4 years
in July.
4 glorious years. And I remember those first days.
Yes.
How's the job changed in that 4 years?
Well, I came in more of a supportive role to the HSEQ Manager at the time. I was coordinator. So I think actually I've learned so much in each role that I've been in TEXO. I came in as coordinator, but at that point the HSEQ management system was in its infancy, so that was a lot of setting up and laying the foundation for what it is now, and then it's increased, and in that time obviously our work scopes have increased. We've become extremely busy. Our projects vary because each department is so different and unique in what it does, and we work in different sectors. HSEQ, our job is not simple. We have to sort of learn what they do. We have to learn the industry that they're working in, whether it be renewables, drones, learn about CAA legislation, all the way down to the ERATA standards for asset integrity. So it's very varied. So I think in that respect, we've got our job cut out for us.
But that must be challenging, but immensely rewarding, because in a normal company where it has one sort of deliverable, you get to learn it, and it's very repetitive then.
Yeah, you're doing the same things.
But with the TEXO sort of divisions, with the 8 divisions, all doing something very unique, it must have been a challenge to understand each one of those, but then to create a set of HSEQ rules and regulations that they must follow.
Yes, I would say that's our biggest challenge. I think most HSEQ advisors, unless you're in a niche role, you're a generalist. You're not a subject matter expert in any of these one fields, so you have to sort of be a generalist to understand how to apply the standards and the legislation to the field that you're working in. So I think that's where like I said, our job's cut out for us here, in that we have to apply that to 8 different industries, essentially.
So when you go to a dinner party and someone asks you about drones, you know a lot about drones, and someone sort of turns around about sort of port services and ship fitting, all of a sudden you can talk about that, and the same with sort of engineering and fabrication and oil rig. So
and I think because we support all the different projects, like we obviously had the drill leading tower in Blythe for the last sort of year, and that was very interesting. And because of that, I learned so much about the fabrication and what does it do, and the offshore side of things, about what it's actually going to do when it is mobilized.
Yeah.
When it's mobilized. And then we have we work with DSI, so we learn all about the drones, and CAA legislation is ever changing, so that keeps us on our toes. So yeah, I think that in that respect, that we learn when we're supporting the project, we do learn so much about that industry, and it keeps us we're never stagnant, and we're never bored, put it that way.
What's been the biggest challenge within the health and safety sort of environment, with the one big variable that you have, the human being? How do you get the individual to understand the importance? It's almost like common sense, but it isn't. So is that probably one of your biggest challenges, is getting the individual to understand how important it is as a rule? Yeah,
I think that's something that across the board any HSEQ professional has a challenge, is that everyone's busy, everyone's got their job cut out for them, and budgets, time constraints. We never want to make the job more cumbersome or make it more difficult. So our job is to obviously support and assist in a way that actually we're working alongside, we're making sure that we are compliant to either the legislative requirements or the standard requirements or the client requirements, but in a way that doesn't impede on, the job itself. But then you're also talking to a variety of different personalities and different attitudes, and people that have been in the industry for years, and people that get it and are fine, and then people that think that HSEQ is a bore, and why, if we just make things difficult. So you have to sort of translate it in a way that gets people on board, and that's probably a challenge in itself, and you have to be a people person for that reason. And you obviously you can't just go around being a policeman and just saying this is the way it's done or no way. You have to really get around, work with each individual, and I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in our role is addressing all these different personalities and getting that buy-in from them in a way that works on their level.
It's as much about people management as much as the health and safety sort of management.
Yeah, we can learn our the rules and everything all day long. We can sit there and the theory, and we know it inside and out, but it's translating it in a way that you get that buy-in and you get that trust. And obviously, you have to have that trust from everyone in TEXO. They have to believe in what you're saying and have that confidence that you know what you're talking about, and trust what you're doing and saying. And again, that you don't have that friction of, we're making things more difficult and we're just the policemen that are setting these unsurmountable rules, that they can work with us in a way that helps the job go quicker, more efficiently.
But it must be it's almost, in a way, people have sort of labelled health and safety as, it's a waste of time. Although the first and foremost of almost every job that TEXO does is looked at from the health and safety perspective. Make sure that
meeting, that's
everybody goes home and sees their families, everybody's safe, and the client knows that job is done at its absolute peak of health and safety level.
Yes.
Is it easy to make sure that happens without, and we've covered it in a little way, I'm sort of saying that not old dogs new tricks, but is it better for the younger teams coming on board than it is of the more experienced people, or do you think that's
an interesting question. I wouldn't say there's one sort of blanket rule that they're sort of newer in the industry, younger, that they get it more. I think sometimes it is very much based on the personality and the way that the person has worked for years, and that person too may have encountered situations where they get it, they've seen an accident happen in real time, and it changes their whole perception on health and safety and how something can happen in a split second and how it could have been avoided. And those people are great to have working with you, because it's not a case of you're just making up these rules for us. They understand why. So I think it would be based on more the personality than the demographic and the age. So
I want to delve a little bit deeper in that, because I'm fascinated actually that when you have someone who's skeptical about the health and safety, why are we doing it? Is it really necessary? How do you work to convince them? Because you mentioned sort of a case study, and I can see that being like the most powerful tool in your arsenal. How do you sort of, it's not a case of persuading them, it's getting them to understand that it's part of the everyday, it's like getting dressed in the morning and getting in the car. It
Behavior.
Should be second nature to them. How do you sort of turn someone who's not...
I think sometimes the more simple the method, the better. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Sometimes just showing someone, this is what's happened, and it maybe isn't the prettiest of pictures, or often it can be, a case where someone has gone to prison for a number of years, and people don't realize the cause and effect. They don't realize, the case law and what happens at the end of the story. They just see what we're doing here. They don't understand why. And sometimes I think for us as well, the tedious part of the job isn't necessarily wear your hard hat, do this, do that. It's actually the paperwork and the trail, and making sure that risk assessments are, say, rolled out completely and that people understand it, but why? And understanding that, there's a whole audit trail that's necessary. If anything were to happen, what happens in a court of law? It's an audit trail, an evidence trail, and something that can demonstrate that you followed your procedure right through to the very end, and why. And then showing that, if you don't do this, this is what happens. It's very cause and effect. And a picture speaks 1,000 words. Often you can talk about, health process, for hours and hours, but if you show somebody, the effect and what
So the
happens.
case study sort of, that cause and effect, if you don't follow the rules, is a powerful mechanism.
Yeah, Yes. It's just, we're not doing this for the sake of we're bored and we want to make up these silly rules. There's a reason why case law has a lot to do with it. Case law is ever changing, the legislation is ever changing, but why? Because something's happened to make it that way. So we want you to go home safe with all your fingers and toes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we put this in place. It's not we're not trying to make your job difficult. We're actually trying to work with you in a way that we are obviously following the rules, but in a way that isn't impeding and making your job slower or, off target, off budget. We're trying to work with you, but we want to make sure that it's safe first and foremost. That is our first priority here at TEXO. That making sure everyone goes home to their family. And I think often that emotional side of it as well is quite important.
It's a very powerful motive, isn't it? If people don't really get on board, but they think, actually, I've seen some of these case studies and I do want to go home and see my daughter. I want to go home and see my wife. And they're there for a reason.
Yes.
How many people in the team now? Because there's been an expansion recently,
yes,
hasn't there?
Yes, there has been a slight expansion. So the group team, there are 6 currently. And we have 2 managers at the site in Blyth, 1 manager at the site in Dundee. And we have Mike and DSI, the safety manager there as well. So we have managers at each site that help, run those sites. Then we have for the group team, we have 6. So we are growing.
So in that period of growth, what's been the most challenging part of it?
Understanding where we need to support and how to fit in. I think we could have 10 advisors, but how do we support and how do we make ourselves reactive and nimble where we can, if someone's got a project tomorrow, we can jump and support. And there's 2 sides to our department. There's establishing group processes and driving policy and, ensuring that at a group level I think there's behind the scenes that people don't see. Obviously making sure that everything's in place in our management system to maintain our certification. Then there's ensuring that all of our projects have the adequate support they need from start to finish, ensuring the risk assessment is done, all the way through to the finish line, that, everything that the client has required of us is, met. And then there's the side of continually trying to improve our business practices. If it's an observation card system, maybe it's a risk assessment process, maybe it's not working quite right, so we tweak it as we go. Because we're quite a younger company, these are things that are always evolving.
Yeah.
So there's a few sides to it. So it's ensuring that as a team, we have people to support driving the policy and procedure. We have people to support each division. But as we said earlier, these are different industries, different subject matters, understanding where we can plug ourselves in to support effectively. Somebody might have a bit of an interest in drones or CA legislation. Someone might have a keen interest in errata and the standards there for the rope access activities. So just understanding how our team can fit in and plug in. And then someone might have a really good gift with driving policy and process and making sure that every site is managed the same way and that our rules are applied and that our audit trails are in place. So that takes quite a unique gift as well. So there's all this behind the scenes, and there's the project support, I guess, the forefront of all, the boots on the ground. So making sure that everyone is balanced in such a way that we're using everyone's gifts and attributes in a way that effectively supports the team, but also making sure that the group management system is running effectively and that, audit trails, external audit, internal audit schedules are complied with as well. So there's a lot going on. It's very, very busy. You're juggling a few different aspects all at one time. And I think that's what people don't see. They think that we just sit there and wait for an accident to happen. That's very reactive of us. We have to be proactive in making sure that we are establishing processes and continually improving our processes to make sure that we're doing things in the best way and making sure that safety does come first. So, yeah.
Interesting point I've always thought is, how does the TEXO HSEQ team work with a client's HSEQ? How do you plug in, and is it a simple system? Take us through very briefly though the challenges in that and working with a client.
The simple answer is that it isn't simple. I would love to say that we follow a very simple process from A to Z, but the fact is that you're working with different companies who have very different and unique management systems, different styles of working with their suppliers. So from the outset, we establish it's called a bridging document, and we try and meet our processes and policies, and we work on whose policy we're working to, what are the processes, what are the reporting processes, what are the timescales. Everything should be agreed from the outset. But then when you are working with a variety of clients, the way that that happens is different for every case. So it's basically establishing that from the outset and making sure that we have that ongoing communication with them, and the interface is of a standard that, you know, we like to have in place. But then, of course, you know, we have
So
to
there isn't.
work
That's
there.
fascinating. So there isn't sort of like a Bible of that A to Z of the principles of what you're trying to achieve.
There's general principles that everyone works towards, but everyone does it slightly differently because they're following their process. So
So you have to be, as the sort of principal, if you were the principal supplier on a project, is it a case of just being as flexible as possible, and obviously they would want you to work to their specifications, or is it a case of just that bridging document sitting down and
the bridging document is the key piece that agrees all the terms and conditions and all of the standard practices throughout the journey of the project, which can be changed throughout. Obviously, we can, you know, this isn't quite working, let's change the audit schedule, let's look at the site inspections, we need to bring this up to speed, you know, because maybe something's happening, we might change the frequency, looking at certain trends, that sort of thing. But yeah, generally the bridging document will set the standard for the project and set the terms and conditions, the frequency for audits, site inspections, policies, processes, reporting, who do we report to, what's their governing process, because we're the supplier, their processes would typically govern us, but then we have to be clear on our expectations, what are we working towards. So that's all set, you know, at the beginning, and then from there I can assign, you know, an advisor to the project, and if it's a site inspection schedule, I can schedule that in with our team. We have to know what we're working towards. It's not generally that we just working and we just jump when they say jump. We have that set and agreed in a timely manner.
so there's a
from
process
the outset.
that you establish
Between the client and the supplier, yeah, and that drives our resource requirements and, you know, what we need to work towards within our team.
We go to some lighter topics. What's the most, you might not think this is lighter, but what's, in your opinion, sort of, what's the most compelling attribute of TEXO?
This is a good question, and I think anyone that knows me and anyone that comes in to interview for a role here will, from the outset, see how enthusiastic and how much I love TEXO. I think it's, all my friends are like, you guys bleed orange, you know, it's a bit of a running joke in my friendship group. And I think that's something that we're a family, although we're not at that family size anymore. We're definitely growing towards a larger company, but we have that family feel. I think that we have our flaws, we have things that we're working on because we're a young company. We're ever evolving, and we're trying to create these processes and create these programs that will help us grow. And we're aware of these gaps, but that's fine. We're all just mucking in, and we all want to see it become this amazing place, which it is an amazing place. We want to see it grow and improve, and we're just in the journey all together. And I think that's one thing that everyone that's in it is in it, if that makes sense. It's like, you know, it's just that feeling you get. If you come and work for us, you just understand it straight away. It's like, it's a TEXO thing. There's challenges. Every day is not easy. We're aware of, you know, what we need to work on and our gaps and things. And we've got plans in place for 3-year plans, 5-year plans, and what we need to do and grow in that time scale. But we're all so passionate and committed. I think it's just the commitment, and everyone just has your back. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this feeling you've got of like, you're not on your own. You know, if you're struggling, there's just, everyone's there for you. And
so it truly is that family feel.
Yes.
It's very supportive.
Yeah.
Because if you sort of wind the clock back from when you started, how the brand has evolved, and the support and the recognition that you all have worked towards the brand. What's been the biggest change, do you think, towards people's expectation of TEXO? From a company that it was a startup company in a way, to 4 years later, is that people's expectations of it from a staff perspective must have changed, from how much support they need.
Yes,
from a brand.
I think when I came in, it was of course smaller. I came in at a very pivotal time of change. Chris was quite new in the door. He was, you know, tasked with this
impossible task
of transforming the business. So I came in quite, I think, months into that really. So I came in at a pivotal time of change where it was like, wow, what's happening here? I'm not sure about this. But weeks in, I was like, okay, you know, let's all, you know, we're all in it together. to see it through. And I think that's
which is remarkably similar to the actual motto of the company, which is
together we are one.
There we are.
Absolutely.
What's one of the most challenging aspects of the job?
I think the most challenging aspect for me and my team especially is that we're not a huge company with unlimited resource. I don't have teams of people to do quality control. I don't have teams of people to do just health and safety, and they just do this one thing and that's all they do, or environmental, emissions, and calculating our carbon emissions. I don't have teams of people. I have a team, and we have to be nimble and work around the needs of the business at a time when we're growing so exponentially. We're growing very quickly in a rapid we're growing
frame,
yes in a rapid time frame. So doing so is just such a big challenge for me. It's just understanding that sometimes we don't have enough resource, but you don't actually realize it until you're in it, because we're such a smaller company, and the projects come through thick and fast, and then we have a period where it's maybe not so fast, and then it picks up, and so you're trying to understand the baseline that you need, the foundation, like what do I need as a team to support. And because we're such a young company, obviously resources limited, and we are growing, but yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest challenge for us is but I think going back to what I've said about together we are one and being committed, I think all of our team have that belief, and like they will do whatever it takes. They'll stay behind and work on something if they need to. I think because I love TEXO so much, I don't think twice about staying back till 9 p.m. working on something because it needs to get done for that at the end of the week.
It doesn't become a job.
It doesn't feel like a job. I mean, of course it does. There are times where it's difficult, but I feel like it's my passion. It's a bit of a hobby. My friends are like, "Why are you working late again?" I'm like, I kind of like it. I want to get this done, and I really enjoy it. And I'm loyal, and I just really love seeing things.
It's interesting. I hear, because the way that the structure, the way the brand has embraced the community, and we'll talk about that side in a minute. A lot of people outside of the TEXO sphere don't get it. And I've spoken to many people, many clients, many individuals at certain events, and they just said, well, what is it? What is it about? What's the magnetism? Why are people drawn? There was a time when people didn't want to work for TEXO. Mm-hmm. Now it's just like, well, how can we work for TEXO? Mm-hmm. What's been the change, do you think?
It is interesting you say that. There is definitely a remarkable change. When I started, there was some negativity because of the old company and the way it was set up and everything. And there was a bit of negativity. I think that made it then challenging to try and not sell ourselves, but we would go to these conferences and it was like you'd always have someone come up and talk about something from the past. And we're at a time where we're rebranding and rebuilding, and we're so positive about that. And we've got a new set of people that weren't involved in the past. So we're trying to sort of convey that message.
Keep them away from the past.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's been a challenge, just conveying that message. But also, I don't know where it changed, but somewhere in the last year to year and a half, it's like there's something about TEXO that was the message to, everyone's, kind of wanting to work with us, and the projects have just, increased exponentially. It's just been, it's mad. Everyone's like.
But we'll stay on this point. It's like. One of the aspects that I think changed, I would say, the awareness of TEXO within Aberdeenshire and across the country is the TEXO Foundation. One of the aspects is to obviously to support local community in a way that probably hasn't been seen before. It's not here's just one singular organisation that we're going to donate to. It's about empowering multiple, and I think we're up to about over 30 separate organisations. Do you think that was a pivotal sort of moment of breaking away from the old and starting anew and making people look at TEXO in a different way?
I think so. I think that's one thing that when I'm out and about in the community, I hear more of. It's like, oh, TEXO did this and swimsuits here, and there's so much help within the community that isn't necessarily for sake of throwing money at projects and throwing money at charities and foundations. And I think what we're doing right now is we're building this employee network, and we're building, we're setting the cornerstone of the employee network with the foundation, the work that we're doing for the community, and it's not necessarily, you know, like signing a check and giving it to a charity. It's what we can do, steps, challenges, where can we get involved, a beach cleanup, whatever it might be. And I think that's where we're involved in a lot more than we used to be, because there's just small things that people don't even know we're doing, and it's like just small changes. We're not, you know, obviously preaching it from the pulpit. We're just, oh yeah, you guys helped with this school over here, and you came in and helped, you know, provide lunches, whatever it might be. And that's not something that's, you know, widely known, but just small little things that we're doing throughout the community that are just from the heart. And I think that's probably going back to what is it I love about TEXO, and that, you know, we're all so in it, and how much we love TEXO. For me, it's actually seeing the heart of it all that actually I see behind the scenes. And a lot of people might think that, oh, TEXO, you sponsor Aberdeen and you just do this and that, and it's all, you know.
We sponsor Aberdeen Football Club, not
Football,
Aberdeen.
Sorry,
It's now coming across in a way that we are. The TEXO Foundation, as you know, was created sort of 2 years ago to, even though at the time, and it's not a secret, is that obviously as we were building the company, it wasn't making a profit, but we still actually launched the foundation in that phase of growth, which meant that we were giving without actually making a profit. So it wasn't about we're making a huge profit, we're going to give it to local charities and needy organisations. It was truly about finding out how we can actually make a difference to the community and make a positive impact. And I've noticed over that period of time, over the last sort of 2 years, how people internally and externally have got much more involved, and it's like the challenge TEXO.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it. Like I said, it's not just TEXO throwing money at things. It's like for me, it's, I see the heart of it. It's what can we do to help? What can we, you know, if there's the train, you know, in Blythe, for example, that wasn't just throwing money at something. That was us actively. Dale's School, that's the one. You know, we were obviously we collected the books for the train. We actively worked on the project with labourers from TEXO, you know, that were just wanting to be involved with the project. It wasn't just signing a check and giving it to charity, and that's us done our checkbox exercise for the year. It's actively, it meant something to us, or people that really meant something, you know, special needs, and a lot of us have that within our own families, and it really meant something to us. And I think just seeing the heart of Chris, for me, is something that's really kept me just committed to TEXO. Chris and everyone else, you know, the whole management team, it's from the heart. It's something that you can see that they want to help, and they don't want to just be, you know, this sort of big company that's just signing checks. They want to actually be involved in the community from the grounds up, and just things that aren't necessarily, like I said, widely shouted about from the rooftops. It's just the small things here and there that, you know, I speak to some of the children at my daughter's school, the parents, and they know about little things we've done that aren't necessarily things that we've preached about or talked about or shouted about, but it's just little things that they've heard through.
It's a balance, isn't it? Because we market them, we tell people, but we don't. I think you use the word, you know, shout from the pulpit. We want people to understand why we're doing it, but we do it in a very subtle way.
Yes.
We don't sort of oversell it, because, you know, one of our biggest support, one of the organisations we support the most is probably the Archie Foundation, and it is an amazing organisation, and it's a balance. It's a balance about trying to support them. Obviously, we've raised money for them. We've built new nurses stations for them, so that we've improved. So we've used our own sort of in-house skills to do that. If there was a TEXO Foundation moment in the last sort of 2 years that you think defines that foundation, what would it be?
It's quite an iconic moment that I think everybody will remember, but when Santa went to the hospital.
I'm glad you said that, because it's
I could well
probably
now
one of my
thinking about
exactly. So very quickly explain what that was.
Essentially, obviously it was during COVID.
And everybody who's listening, because it's not TV, it's radio, Rebecca's eyes are watering up on this, because it is a very emotional moment. But try and take us through with it, and I'll get a tissue.
No, during COVID, Santa couldn't go visit because of COVID restrictions, and obviously they're in a more vulnerable position, and there was no visitors allowed. And so Santa went up with a cherry picker and saw them through the windows, and the picture of the little boy at the window just touched everyone's heart, I'm sure, as it did mine. And it was just, I think I had just recently...
So all those sick children that were obviously over Christmas in the hospital, didn't have access to Santa.
Santa couldn't come, yes.
And the fire brigade there with the cherry pickers and their cranes. And that
helped
moment,
Santa get up to the window.
Or that hand, Santa's hand, and the little children was trying to reach out to him. It gets me every time.
Yeah.
And she is welling up, by the way. It's normally Richard Lamb.
What have you done to me?
Yeah, there we are. You see.
No, I think I just joined TEXO at that point, and I remember just thinking, wow, you know, it changed my whole. I wanted to work for a company that would do that for sick children. And so just little moments like that just help me stay committed and just remember what we're doing this for. And it's like I said, we have to be a profitable company, so we are doing projects for clients and for profit. Of course, that's how a business would run. But we're a family.
From those projects that allow the company to grow, it just releases those endorphins in a way that just everybody then says,
it drives you.
What else can we achieve? What else can we achieve for the local communities, from girls football, girls cricket, to up and coming kickboxers, to the football, to the Archie Foundation. It's really looking at and I'm just sort of clearing up a tear that was in my right, is about giving massively to those struggling organisations that need a boost.
Yes, I think for me, in my mind, that's what sets TEXO apart as a company that I would want to work for, is that yes, I'm doing my job, and like I said, we have to be delivering these projects for profit to be able to run a business and to make it profitable. But at the end of the day, it's these little things that we're doing that make it unique for me and a company that I'd want to work for, is that we're a family, and what goes on behind the scenes, some people don't even see. Little things that we do here that make us a supportive family to each other is what sets it apart for me, makes it somewhere that I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. I just want to be here.
Good. I think everybody they wouldn't want you to go. They'd handcuff you to the desk. We're going to end on one note here. Within TEXO, we have a concept called Ideas Matter, where we obviously ask staff to suggest things that would have, it's not necessarily a financial implication, it's just an idea that would benefit the company in some shape, form or fashion. So from that principle, if there was one thing that you could change, what would it be? It could be as simple as more milk, or actually
a bigger car park.
A bigger car
park.
I
think everyone right now will know exactly what I'm speaking about.
Right. I
have to park 3 streets away to get here, and I think that's testament to how big we are. Obviously we're growing, and that every Monday there's 5 different inductions. So our headquarter here in Aberdeen, we're growing. We're having to make new office space, and we're outgrowing our building that we're in, and we can't park in our car park any longer. So
we need a multi-storey outside.
Yes, we'd like a multi-storey car park, and maybe 3 times the size of this building. That would be.
Well, that's a positive, very positive note to end on, Rebecca.
Growing pains.
Exactly, there we are. Well, thank you ever so much for participating in the podcast.
Thank you.
It hasn't been as painful as you thought it was.
It's a bit emotional.
There we are. Thank you very much.